Picture. I didn't even think about it all year.
Get together. Go ahead and start.
Okay. That's yours.
Yeah, I'm going to ask Commissioner Ralph Thomas to say the prayer, and I'm going to lead us in prayer.
Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We're just thankful for this time to be here to do our county's business. We ask you to just be present with us tonight and help us make wise decisions. Ask you to just be with our brother, Mr. J.D. Johnson, today, and just be with the doctors over his care and his family. Just give them all peace and comfort during this difficult time. We ask you to just be with those tonight who may be cold, and just ask maybe all reach out to our neighbors and make sure that our neighbors are well cared for during this cold night. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there any changes to the agenda?
I'm pulling tab 18.
Pulling tab 18.
Yeah, in a second there, Chairman.
I'll make a motion, Howard, if you have any changes.
Well, yeah, I'm just probably going to pull some from the consent agenda, but we'll get to it when we get there. That's
Don't we
okay.
do that now?
Now's the time to do it.
Yeah, we need to
Right
do that
now?
now. Yeah.
Now's the time to do it.
Oh, really? Okay, give
If
me
you
a
want to
second.
pull something from the consent agenda item, let me know.
Yeah, I have to get this thing open over here first, though.
You know what they were related to,
I'll
Howard?
pull item number 5 about the library.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what he wants to
I'll make the
pull.
motion to approve the agenda and
Yeah,
pull number 5 for Dr.
Let me
Kessler.
just take just a second. I know
Yes, we're going to pull number 5 out of the consent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hold on just a second. Let him make sure he doesn't want to pull 4.
Okay. Well, now I made it disappear, huh? Let's see.
You want a paper copy, Howard?
No, stone will do, though. Okay. I don't know what this is. Oh, let's see what your 4 is. No, that's okay. That's good.
Okay.
Thanks.
My motion stands in.
Okay, so-
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to approve the agenda. We're going to be pulling item number 5. Okay, all in favor? Aye.
And 18 is pulled.
Okay, and we're also going to be pulling item number 18. Okay, all for a motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do we have any citizens to be heard?
We have one. You're going to speak first or second?
If you're the citizens to be heard, let us know if you want to speak at the citizens at the beginning or the citizens at the end of the meeting.
I'll go now.
All right.
Oh, it's just Chris.
It's just Chris. Just Chris. Hey, Happy New Year. New Year, everyone. Sorry, Commissioner. I wasn't going to come tonight, but I was afraid you would have some proclamation about Auburn having some merit of being in the game tonight.
All right,
Wow, that was
time's
quick.
up.
Come on, Kenny, you got the same color, baby. Look.
You were supposed to do that to Auburn folks.
Yeah. Thank you. The cue didn't work correctly.
That's right.
Hey, seriously, Happy New Year. I hope it's prosperous and safe, and most importantly, healthy for all of us. And hopefully the goodwill that came out of Christmas season can go forward this year. During the Christmas season, Commissioner Kessler was nice enough to contact me about my application on the Charter Review Commission I submitted. And we had a great discussion about the current petition drive that WWA is doing. And we were discussing that's kind of the beta test for if petitions citizens initiative will work or not. And I think it's a great example of one coming forward. There are a few issues with it that I think we need to look at, and unfortunately our charter does not address how we address this. So there's 3 issues I'd like y'all to take forward and tell us how we need to address it. First of all, our charter is clear that it says it can only be one subject. I'm not sure that petition's one subject. It wants to adopt an ordinance, but then it wants to amend an ordinance. It wants to change the way we're doing business up here. That's 2 things. We need to have some input on that, see if that's correct or not. Second thing in our charter is very clear. It says we will not have land zoning issues brought forth by petition. I'm not sure that this isn't a land zoning issue. Just need somebody to check into it. Let us know. I don't know if it is or isn't. I got to go to P&Z to get a variance. planning and zoning, I don't know. Problem is, the way our charter's written right now, there's no clear-cut answer to that. We need it. That's why we need this commission, and we stood back up and figured out these issues. The third thing, I stopped by Supervisor-election Wells' office Friday. I've heard the great progress we've had on petitions. I want to see how far we were, and we haven't had any petitions turned in. Our charter is very clear that we will have quarterly reports put in on how many petitions have been attained. That's right there in our charter. We want local control. It's in our charter for local control. So if the petition started in September, then we should have had one at the end of September. If it started, if we went to the next quarter, if we just did it by 90 days after that, we would have had one in December coming up on January. Questions that we need to have resolved, we need to have our charter set up in a manner that we don't have these. So we had a great charter going forward. It is a great tool. We just need to adjust it. And I hope y'all go forward and answer these three questions. The real simple questions. Is it a single subject issue of the beta test we have right now? Is it a land zoning issue? And thirdly, who is checking the signatures? Who's accountable for making sure the reports are in? Other than that, I hope it goes forward, and I think it's a great democratic process for us to look at, and it is a great beta test. Last thing, hope everyone has a great New Year. Commissioner, seriously, I'm glad we have two teams in there tonight. Let's hope the Knowles win. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next, do we have any public hearing items?
Nope.
Okay, we don't have any public hearing items. We're going to go to, we don't have any awards and presentations that I know of.
Nope.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded to approve consent agenda. With the exception of number 5 that we're pulling. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, well, okay, who was it that pulled number 5?
I usually just gave it straight to, just let David explain it. That was the easiest way to handle it.
All right.
Agenda item number 5, request board approval for a services contract between Wakulla County Coalition for Youth and Wakulla County Public Library. What this is basically this is a contract that there's a contract currently between Ounce of Prevention and Wakulla County Coalition of Youth for services to be provided based on the Ounce of Prevention grant, and one of the sub-grantees is Wakulla County Public Library, and it's for the amount of $10,000, and that's what this agenda item is for. And this, as I explained in our meetings, this can stand alone from our agreement with WCCY. So this can stand by us. And this is requesting approval of that agreement so that we can move forward with Ounce of Prevention and WCCY.
Okay. Do we don't have any citizens to speak on this, I don't think, do we?
Need a motion.
Make a motion to
for
approve.
Okay.
Second.
So now discussion.
I was asking, is there any discussion because we pulled it, so is there any discussion?
Now it is, right?
Did anybody second my motion?
I did.
Yeah.
Second. Thank you.
Yeah, so now is the discussion. So just to be clear that,
Scott, you want to get up and reiterate that from your email, please?
All this is for afternoon programs 3 times a month at the community center. There's a program for K through 2, 3rd through 5th, and then middle schoolers on up. It's not going to affect anything we do at the library. We're still going to have our usual preschoolers and infant programs down there, and it don't affect at all. All they're doing is reimbursing my children's coordinator for the extra time that it will take for her to put these programs together and to come up to the community center and do them. And there's so many supplies that we have to buy specifically for the community center programs. It's not what we do down at the library.
is there increased staffing, increased hours?
By my children's coordinator, but we're going to be reimbursed for that from the grant.
Yeah.
But yes, she will be putting in some extra hours on this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
That's it.
Okay, we have all for a motion.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Tab 7, this is a request board approval for
You
amendment.
got tab 6, Dave.
6, I'm sorry, tab 6, amended and restated agreement for operation, maintenance, and management services between Wakulla County and operations. What this is, Commissioners, as we had discussed previously, we went back to amend to make a 7th amendment to their contract, to ESG's contract, found out differences with the other amendments, so therefore we just had it restated, amended and restated, and brought back as one contract. It does not extend the date of the initial contract, which is still 2017. It'll end with 5-year
Motion to approve.
extensions.
Second.
Have a motion to approve and second. Okay, we got one citizen to speak on this issue. Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. I just wanted to read to you 9.1 in this contract. It caught my eye. Wakulla County and ESG, the company you're doing the contract amendment with, recognize that the environment of Wakulla County, specifically its rivers, springs, bays, and estuaries, are a vital part of the fragile environment and economy of Wakulla County, and that Wakulla County has long been dependent on the same for industry, tourism, and its economy. Therefore, it is imperative that parties continue protection of the environment foremost in all their action under this agreement at all times, to a high standard of protecting our fragile environment, while at the same time you're eliminating this county's buffers for its wetlands and surface waters. And that strikes me as a bit ironical, to say the very least. So I would think you would be pounding the ground for property rights for ESG. Whenever they went to someone's property, if they want to poop in their yard, they ought to be able to poop in their yard, if they have property rights. But this contract strikes me as hypocritical, to say the least. In addition to that, it says here that you've been leasing our equipment, and by our, I mean the people of Wakulla County, our equipment to this company, and that you have been paying, or they have been paying for the primary insurance on that equipment and those vehicles. Now you say you want to give up the lease of the equipment and just let them use the equipment, and that now the people are going to pay for the insurance. And this says no budgetary impact. While that may be true, I don't think anyone in here can say if there's going to be a budgetary impact until this fiscal year ends on September the 30th. So please think about that. I think some of you ran on being cost efficient and easy on the taxpayers and sort of checking everything that you do, dollars and cents wise. I would just hope that you would look at that. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Okay, we have a discussion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, could we have the county administrator at least clarify the neutrality or expense or savings as relates to the insurance?
Yes, last year, ESG came to us and felt like it would be a better deal for the county if they were to carry the general liability insurance, or excuse me, the collision insurance on all the equipment, because we currently, the county owns the equipment in ESG, and ESG is the ones that operate our equipment. And in order to do that, we had to go to a lease. Come to find out, it didn't work good for ESG, nor did it good for us, as well as there were some gaps there that were not being covered. Therefore, this year we said it doesn't work, so they reduced their contract by that amount. So we'd added to their account, last year we had added dollars to their contract, taken away from our insurance. And this year we just pulled it away from their contract and added it back to our insurance.
How long has it been like that? I'm sorry. How long has Cleve been paying their own insurance?
It was October 20th.
October 2012. And
So
prior
a
to
year?
that, all we're doing is resetting the bar back to where it was.
I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I used to have Cleve's job. We did it exactly the way he's going to now, and the way it's been
Right.
going to. And I think it has some advantages when it comes to FEMA also, because the equipment is county equipment. I don't know if that affected it or not, but
No, this was purely a issue. But like I said before, the main thing is when we got ready to redo this, which it works out better for the county. It's actually cheaper for us. But when we did this, we said, hey, wait just a minute. Where are the rest of these amendments? These amendments could not be located. So we said, all right, in point of clarification, trying to make this where everything's above the table, let's pull together a restated contract. And that's the reason we're moving forward with this. It doesn't, like I say, it does not extend the contract date.
I believe the statement also about the protection environment's been there since '95, if I remember. That was in the original contract when the county first privatized it. And it still is
I
as
couldn't tell
good
you
now
that.
as it was then, which is good.
Well, two things. One is, just to be clear, again, the change in the insurance applications, who's paying what, is not going to result in an increase to the county.
No, sir, this was already even budgeted for. We knew about it going into budgeting. So we went ahead and pulled down their contract and increased by that same amount, increased our insurance
So it was
exposure.
offset. In fact, you told me earlier it was a little bit.
It's a little shy. Actually, we're coming out to the better a little bit.
The citizens are coming out a little, saving
right.
a little bit of money.
That's right, a little bit more. That's right.
Good, and I just want to clarify that.
That's right.
Second point is, however long that portion relating to the environment has been in the contract does not take away from the citizens' statement and point.
That's why I say it was important then and it's important now.
Okay.
And does ESG own any property in Wakulla County?
Not that I'm aware of.
So they wouldn't have any inherent property rights if
They
don't
have
own
no
it.
property. They're squatters.
On a nice barbecue grill, I know that.
Is there any more discussion on this item?
I have one, I just want to point out, there's another, you were all given a supplemental distribution of this, and there's an additional small change in section 2.3 dealing with reimbursement for FEMA costs, which would allow ESG to be reimbursed for administrative costs if in a declared emergency, if they are representing the county
Would-
and dealing with FEMA.
Would that change the problem that we've run into in the past? Because in the past, when we tried to get FEMA to reimburse for work that the public works did, be it Cleve, PSG, ESG, Veolia, whoever, they always said no because they have a blanket contract that says they're supposed to do it. Will this change make it where if Cleve bills the county for debris pickup, we can now apply to FEMA and get reimbursed for what we have to pay Cleve? In the past, we couldn't do that.
Hopefully. I mean, we'll see. It's going to depend on the FEMA person we're dealing with
We've
at
added
the
language.
time.
We've added language specifically targeted at, but understand FEMA changes, as you know, from year to year. So as of right now, we've changed it to reflect what we experienced in Hurricane Debbie.
Y'all understand what the issue is with that? Is that during hurricanes, if the road department goes and stays out all night fixing roads, FEMA won't pay the county back for that overtime or whatever because they look at the contract with PSG or ESG and say, it says you're going to do everything you required necessary. So we're kind of stuck with the bill then.
And that's what that's the problem we had during Tropical Storm Debbie, but we argued that point and successfully won. So therefore, we based the new language based upon what we experienced, so hopefully that won't be a problem. But I'd be willing to bet it'll be a problem the next storm we turn around. Hopefully not.
Any way you can clarify it to our favor is better.
And that's what we did. We did the best we could, but just understand they're unpredictable, and they'll interpret things how
Very
they want it.
unpredictable.
That's right. But we tried to take care of that based upon our experience.
All right, is that all discussion? Okay, all for the motion?
Aye.
All right.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, next, David.
Agenda item number 8. This agenda...
We skipped 7.
7. My book is numbered wrong. I'm sorry.
Katie, do that?
Katie did that. No, actually, it was me. I like to blame Katie, though. Request board approval to purchase new utility billing software from CUSI. This is intended for us to purchase software to be able to take over software billing for the Panacea area water system, our sewer customers that are on there, as well as upgrade our system. If for some reason that we do not take over the billing, therefore we will not purchase this software, but we wanted to go ahead and have approval to move forward to purchasing it, just in case those negotiations break down.
If necessary. Only if necessary.
Only if necessary, yes. Yes.
We have a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Now,
Number 8.
number 8.
Now we're on 8.
Request board approval, proposal submitted by Clemson Rutherford and Associates for architectural engineering services for the repair of Station 8 Volunteer Fire Department. As you know, for some time we've been looking at ways to go ahead and skin the cat with our Station 8. It's had some structural issues. Therefore, we've come up with a resolution to move forward with Clemens and Rutherford. They have a fairly clear path to move forward to rebuilding it so that it'll be safe as well as it'll be habitable. And Crawfordville is our busiest and most active volunteer fire staff, volunteer fire staff, and therefore, but they're the only ones that do not have their own station as of this time.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
You have discussion?
Thank you. So, get clear over here, will that house both the paid and the,
No, sir. This is strictly getting the section for the Crawfordville volunteer force. It's getting that fixed.
okay. And this contract, I didn't ask you when we had our meeting this morning, but I have been asked by citizens about bidding. I don't think this is bid out. This is a list of contracts that we already had.
It was bid.
Was it bid? Okay.
Not for this specific project, but...
Originally, to have those engineers on board.
Right, and the folks that we had 3 engineering firms, this was one of them, that looked at it, and this was the best proposal that we got.
Okay, great. And then this proposal, the $14,000, is to draw up plans for the project, which will cost about $100,000.
That's right around $100,000 is what we're anticipating.
And I think that there's somewhat limited, keep an eye on it during construction. There is no assistance with bidding. Is it, I don't know if Rod or you need to answer this question, but is it going to raise the ceiling height up any? Because there was an issue with, and the length with the fire truck, it couldn't fit in there, and...
At this point in time, it does not raise the structure any, it'll be the same height. And it's just taking the shell as it is. And,
You want to get Rod up here?
Yeah, Rod, get up here and let's talk. Get on the record.
I got a couple of just quick contracts.
Rod corrected me. At one time, it was $100,000. Now it's $150,000. As they're saying, that's our current estimate. But we have over $200,000 budgeted for it. But we're going to see what we can do. The initial was over $400,000, but we got it down to
The first estimate we got to completely overhaul it was in the $400,000 range. And talking to these guys, they're estimating right now that we should be able to make all the repairs for less than $150,000, but they did throw the $150,000 out there.
Is that,
so,
Rod, with the living quarters? There's not going to be living quarters.
There's not going to be a living quarter.
No AC in there, of course.
Yes, there is going to be AC. That's mechanical and electrical. That's a complete overhaul of all the electrical in there, a new service, and that's taking this entire roof structure off down to the concrete blocks, and new trusses, new decking, metal roof, shoring up beams, shoring up the front to meet the current wind loads. It's all the architectural and engineering design necessary for that building.
So we're going to pull all the old trusses off.
Correct.
So we'll get rid of that big beam that goes down the center of it, right?
They may not eliminate that beam. They may shore it up and leave it.
Because, if we flip the trusses, we talked about this. And that's no work on the side where they have their meetings and everything, right?
Well, it will be a new roof on that section there, but that's not removing the
And it'll have
trusses
new
because
electrical
that's
as well.
good.
As well as new electrical.
Yeah, right, and the electrical.
Thing with the
and-
bathrooms, are bringing up the ADA, we talked about that at one time?
We talked about that. If we may have to bring those up, and we can do that, I believe, within the parameters of the budget
But we're not-
numbers.
Not making it any deeper, and we're not making it
we're
any
not
taller.
we're not expanding the footprint at all, and we're not making it any taller.
And I thought that was a problem with getting trucks in there, with the height of that, and we had a special order, a non-standard type
Well,
truck.
I had that question too. Those trucks are the ones that the full-time guys have. I know it may seem counterintuitive to have a full-time firefighter here, and then a mile away is the Crawfordville Volunteer Fire Department. But I guess they decided they want to still keep their volunteer organization. I think that's where all the countywide people meet, but they wanted to have separate entities.
We're not going to have any...
The truck it would not fit was the ladder truck.
Right.
It will not fit the ladder truck, but we keep that. Where is that, Chief? That's down in Medark, yes.
And I would think the full-time firefighters would have the ladder truck, and the other truck they wouldn't fit, not the volunteer group. They would have more of a quick response.
As part of Medark, we've got a full-time person down there.
But in other words, Howard, the new fire station will nullify that issue.
Mm-hmm.
So the plan is to spend about $200,000 here, and then when you're saying the new fire station, that's for the paid firefighters?
The one at Trice Lane. Right?
If and when that comes about, yes, sir.
And what's the estimate for that?
It's all according to what we bill. Right now, we've got an estimate of about $500,000 for that. If it's just the fire department itself.
But there's a lot of that we've
And
already budgeted
EMS,
for.
and we've got to do something with EMS. Remember, we brought that forward. It was about $1 million figure. We're trying to go after some grant programs right now. We were unsuccessful with our first one, but we're going to try a couple other grant opportunities to see if we can get it built, or at least a portion of it built through grants.
When you said the new fire station at some point in the future, so in the interim, are the paid firefighters going to be at Station 8?
They're going to stay right where they're at right now over at the fairgrounds.
And so,
EMS is at Trice Lane.
so the classroom that was there before in the meeting room, which is not there anymore.
That, you're talking about at Station 8? It'll still be.
At the,
Sheriff.
yeah, the sheriff's grounds, so to speak. That's being occupied there and not being used as
That
a
is,
classroom.
that is being occupied as of right now, yes. That is occupied as a permanent station.
So where are our classes being held that would normally be held in that building?
Chief, where do you hold those classes? Station 8? Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas, that's the reason we're trying to do it, because the problem is, they were being held there, but we ran out of places to hold our full-time folks. Therefore, they've turned that into living quarters, and they're meeting at Station 8 for meetings. And it's sad living conditions where they're at as of right now also. Everybody would be ashamed when you walked in there. We cleaned it up as best we can, but it's just, the trailer is just deteriorating around them.
Is it worse
So
than Station 8 was?
We're gonna, oh yeah, we've got to do something. So we're pursuing other grant opportunities and trying to get it where we don't have to borrow any money. We don't have much money in our 1-cent sales tax, and we're trying to figure out the best way to skin that cat.
Do we have any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed?
Next request, board approval of fiscal year 12-13 Wakulla County property inventory and approval of disposal of fixed assets identified during the physical inventory.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
I must say, I'd like to, before we leave this item, I'd like to thank Greg and mainly Brandy. Thank her for all her hard work. She is actually, for the first time, probably by the end of this year, if not sooner, we will have an actual, true, physical asset inventory that is accurate and truthful for the first time in the history of this county, which is huge.
And Greg did open up his pocket and give her a laptop.
He opened up his little vault in the courthouse there and pulled out enough money to give her a laptop.
Yes.
And so anyway, I wanted to thank him for that.
Okay, item number 10.
Item number 10. This item, really, this should have been actually under the consent agenda, but it's on our general. It's this request board approval for staff to pursue 2014 legislative priorities and community funding request.
Motion to approve. Second.
Any
Discussion.
Now, this is, David, I'm sorry, Howard, this is simply taking a already approved list and putting it on a forms
For Senator Mumford.
somebody told us to put it on. We're
That's
not
right.
changing anything.
That's right. We're not changing anything. All this does is takes it from one form to the next form.
Sorry, Howard.
Yeah. And as per our conversation this morning, this does not include intersection at MedArt and 319.
No, sir.
Okay.
Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. David, number 11.
Number 11. This request board approval of application for reduction or forgiveness of code enforcement lien, CEB number LR008. As Heather has a couple of legal issues here she needs to bring to your attention on this.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do you want me to?
Forgiveness or reduction?
For forgiveness one.
Number one.
Number one.
Second.
Yeah, and typically we wouldn't recommend a complete forgiveness of anything. We would come back with you with a recommendation to recover our hard costs, but this one has some peculiar timing. The lien came about and was filed after a Liz Pendens had been filed, so by state statute, our lien is not effective.
Okay, we have one citizen to speak on this issue, Mr. Mary and Leonard Wagner.
Guess I don't have a whole lot to say.
Don't talk them out of it.
I don't have a whole lot to say. If we're going forward with the forgiveness. I just want to say thank you so much. We are new to Crawfordville. We just moved down here from upstate New York, and when we put the offer in on this house, we had no idea that there was a lien, and the only way we could close was to sign a no hold harmless. We had no idea what the property was, the shape of the property before we had looked at it. So we just want to say thank you if you're going to move forward.
Welcome to Wakulla County.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, is there any more discussion amongst the board?
Yeah.
You had some...
So what I'm concerned on, and I know this is a special situation here, unlike, I guess, 3 that are coming up later in the meeting. But in situations where tax certificates are being sold and we're writing off fines, fees, I'm not sure who we're helping sometimes, whether it's the speculator that's buying those tax certificates, and I think we have to spend some attention, time, looking at that and knowing a lot more in the background of these properties before we move forward in the future.
I mean, in this case, it's clear cut for me
Yeah.
because we don't have any
Yeah.
legal
I said this
standing.
is-
Okay.
yeah.
Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes.
Next agenda item is request board approval for resolution establishing rules and procedures and fee schedule for issuance of code enforcement citations. What this is the kind of cut to the chase. This allows our code enforcement officers to issue citations. Primarily, this is focused towards our ramp fee collections, etc. We still have to work out a couple of details, quite a few details with the clerk's office, but this allows them to write citations when and if we begin enforcement of those, when we begin those enforcement.
Motion approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. All right, we're going to move to Commissioner agenda items. Commissioner Merritt?
Mine is just kind of I don't really have anything specific in mind, but I've been approached by several local suppliers and subcontractors concerned that there's some large projects that are being done in the county, and the people and suppliers in the county and the workers aren't getting any benefit out of them. And I don't think I'm really going to even make a motion on this, but if you guys, I know David is fixing to revise our purchasing procedures, and I'd personally like to see us have some form of preference for local subs. And I don't, are you already working on that?
We're already working on some ideas. It's just, like I told you before, it's a tough deal. But
Yeah, I don't know. It's it's kind of a fine line. We don't want to say you have to use locals, but the issues that come up that I've been, like a concrete guy will say, I'll match the price you're paying now. Just let us do the work in the county, and they aren't able to do it. And just maybe not a punitive way, but maybe get maybe a few extra points or whatever if you include local subs above a certain threshold. So I'm not even going to make a motion on it if that's all right with you guys. Do we generally agree that not anything specific, but if we can help out the local people?
We already have a 10% break.
That's if they get the whole contract. But let's say somebody comes in and builds a community center, for example, and it requires 500 yards of concrete, and the local guys would like, they'd like to do the work. I'm not saying make them use them, but I'm just saying if there is a way to give a preference that's fair, I'd like to at least look at it.
I'm all for using local people as well. I think the only thing that ties our hands sometimes beyond our control, I think, is whenever we use federal grant money.
Absolutely.
If we're using federal grant money, they won't let us do that. But if we're using local funds or state, I believe we can, and I'm
If
for
possible.
it. We have one citizen to speak on this before we all discuss
I'm not
on
even
it.
going to make a motion on it unless you guys want me to make a motion on it. I really should have waited till discussion items, I guess. But
that's
Well,
okay.
Definitely worth looking at, though.
If I don't get a motion in second, then that's, we move on.
Well, will the citizen be able to speak?
Yes, I think we need to let the citizens speak.
Before she gets up here, I could support something like that, Randy, provided that in the final analysis, that doesn't cost the county any more money.
I agree 100%.
Dana Peck again, 2481 Surf Road. I was just thinking this again from the viewpoint of the families and the taxpayers of the county. And it would be wonderful to give preference to local contractors and suppliers, but not at the expense of the taxpayers of this county, and not at the expense of the tax burden on the families of this county. And if you pass the word around, you know, that, hey, if you're local, we're gonna take your contract, I might think if I were preferred in number one, I just sort of have a higher price than anybody else. So I would hope your wording, which probably will be really tricky, would have something in it, all things being equal then, to tilt to the locals, but certainly not to give a preference that would allow taxpayers to have to pay more money for the same job.
And I agree with that statement, but let's remember that we have a 10% local preference for bidders of entire jobs. So we do think there's some value in keeping the work local. So, and again, I don't have a specific suggestion. I'd just like them to look at it and see if there's a way we can do it if it doesn't punish the taxpayers.
And maybe that problem can be solved by that contractor has X percentage of local people in their bid, and then they would qualify for that local preference even though they're not a local contractor.
That's an
idea. So then they're competing right alongside with a local contractor that would possibly use the same subs.
You know, it's just a more general idea than.
And that's where we're working, because it is a fine line between supporting our local community versus, as Ms. Peck said, overspending dollars just to give to your local community.
Certainly don't want to
There's a fine line there.
We just want to try to keep those dollars here, recycling
That's right. We want to try to do that, but we also don't want to
not leaving to Georgia.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Kessler.
Howard, you got one more?
Right. So the bottom line is, we're custodians and executors of the taxpayers' dollars, and we do not want to be increasing their burden. So whatever the wording is, we have to make sure we don't increase.
Do you agree, though, Howard, that we do have a 10% local preference already for general contractors bidding a project?
Oh, I agree that we have that right now. I think it's a tricky business. I voted for that. I think it's a tricky business. I think when you sort of start protecting your own, you also are, to a certain extent, doing two things. One, excluding your own from other markets, which may retaliate and say, we want to do the same thing in our market. And then we exclude our subs and contractors from moving outside our county on a job. And the other thing is that, you know, and most of all, and most critical to me, is that we don't put an extra burden on our taxpayers.
I certainly don't want to force somebody to use a local sub, because that would make the local sub say, well, you got to use us, so we can charge you whatever we want.
If there's a situation where there's a small percentage, and you say, in the case of this small percentage resulting in a tie, it goes to the local, I can handle that.
Okay.
I would agree to that.
If there's no motion second, we'll move on to the next agenda item. Okay, this next one's mine. Have all of y'all had a chance to look at the committees that got sent, and where basically I'll just open it up. What are y'all's thoughts on your appointments? As I was going through here, I tried to keep people where they were at. There were just maybe a few minor changes if someone wanted to come off one, you know, made a few minor changes, but for the most part I tried to keep everybody where it was they were at, if that's where they wanted to be. So I'm gonna.
Does this require a motion, or is it just Richard telling us what he's done?
Well, it's going to require a motion to second eventually, but basically I'm just explaining this is how I come about it. You know, if you was already in that position and you wanted to stay in that position, I pretty much left you there.
If nobody has any qualms with their appointment, I'm going to make a motion to approve it. Is everybody
Second.
all right?
Okay, is there any discussion?
Discussion.
Okay.
On the CRTPA,
I can explain that one.
good, please.
Okay, the reason I left Randy in that one was the fact that for the first time I think ever, our county is now Randy is the chair of the CRTPA, and I think it would behoove us to keep Randy on the CRTPA to continue to be chair. I believe.
I totally agree with you, so.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask what the issue was.
Yeah, well, he was explaining it to me before I asked my question.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question goes to Commissioner Moore.
I was starting to get a little upset.
Go ahead.
My concern goes to Commissioner Moore, where he's the alternate on that, or whatever you call that position, and he is involved with a major potential sale of land on two of our major routes through our county, and I think this would place him in significant conflict.
The land in question.
I have no comment.
You want to relinquish it and let somebody else do it?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Do you want to stay on there?
You bet.
Okay. I don't see where there's a conflict. There's no conflict, right, Heather?
That's a matter that would go to CRTPA or not.
I think it's a matter that gets discussed at CRTPA.
But
It definitely goes to CRTV.
Yeah, it does.
So Jerry would have to recuse himself.
Yeah.
from that.
Right.
if he was there and voting that way.
Right, if he was there voting.
Jerry, you're the alternate on that. So
Have you,
Randy's going to continue to be the primary.
have you had to go to one of the meetings yet that I couldn't attend? I think I made every one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any other discussion about any other? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, next, Commissioner Thompson.
I'm the current appointee for the North Florida Broadband Authority, and for those that may not know what that is, this Broadband Authority was stood up to expend $30 million to bring broadband to the North Florida area. And we were one of the counties, we weren't in the initial group, but we were added into it afterwards. And so that grant cycle has now run its course, and the broadband is in the process of turning over that network to a private company. That went out for bid, and there were two bidders. One company was selected and is in the process of being approved to be a sub-recipient of the grant. And so basically, you know, what this has done is it's now turning into a private operation. The North Florida Broadband will still exist, but they'll have such a very minority vote and minority role in that. I don't see that as being beneficial for Wakulla County. First of all, their footprint has not spread this far west, and it may or it may not, but now that the private entity is going to have full control of those, that's going to be a business decision based on whether or not they think Wakulla County is profitable, and it's not going to be a matter of just being a member that we can vote and spread it to each of the counties. And so I just don't think that we have any real need to continue being on that board and giving input on something that we're going to have very, very little say-so in.
I'll second your motion.
Have a motion made and second. Any discussion?
I'm assuming you...
And also there's the potential liability to be the last two standing.
Absolutely. We can get out now by our agreement, but if this thing starts falling apart and we're among the last two,
Right.
then we're going to be left stuck with it.
We could be stuck.
We'll be skinning the cat. That's your new saying
We'll
now.
be skinning the cat. Paying to skin the cat.
That something must have happened over Christmas with a cat, because I never heard that. Anyway.
All right, is
Don't
any
mention
more-
cats.
All in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, Heather, number 16.
Thank you. The first item is requesting board approval to consider a code lien reduction and installment of payment agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Russell,
Have motion approved.
Good night,
Second.
sir.
do not leave. I've got something for you. Please excuse me. You're not leaving?
I got things to do.
No, but just hold.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna duly decline.
Go ahead if you
Have a
want.
good night. Sorry. I got places to go. Seriously, I got meetings.
They must have had something planned.
we have
Anyway,
any
I'll make a
discussion on
motion
this
to
item?
approve.
None for me.
Okay, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Oh, and saying, oh, wait, discussion.
Well, I asked for discussion.
Well,
Nobody said
all this
anything.
other gibberish was going on over there.
Go ahead, Alan.
I want to bring up the same issues and more on all of these items. I'm concerned when there are tax certificates being bought and the taxes being paid in that manner. I'm concerned about who we are benefiting when we're reducing or forgiving. And I think that we need more information going forward in the future on these things that should come before the board so that we're more fully aware of the status of these properties.
Howard, explain when you say tax, I know
Tax
somebody can
certificate.
buy a tax certificate on unpaid taxes. Is that what
Yeah.
occurred in these cases? These are all
Well,
tax?
what I understand, well, you know, from what little bit that I was able to learn, there are tax certificates being sold. There's certain number of years, and I don't understand all the rules,
Right.
where you can pay the last one and just keep this sort of thing just sort of, I don't know what the...
You end up with a tax deed on the property for unpaid taxes, basically.
Right, and you also, as long as you don't let it go too many years, even if you're the landowner doing it, you pay that, let's say 2011, you're still in the ball game, you know.
With interest, exactly. Yeah.
Right, so it's this, kiting has a lot of different connotations to it, but it's sort of that thing where you can keep from paying all your tax bill, but you sort of paying a little bit of it, or other people are paying it for you. However it's getting done. To me, it smacks of, in the background on some of these properties, is the potential for speculators gaining from eventually ending up with the
Let
property.
me give a scenario, if I could, and tell me if this is what you're talking about. Let's say I find a piece of property somewhere in Smith Creek that's trashed out, has a code enforcement lien on it, and they're not paying their taxes on it because they intend to let it go anyway. I start paying the taxes, which is how a tax deed works, or tax certificate. After a certain number of years, I get tax deed to the property, right? If I
You
pay,
can apply for it.
if I pay their back taxes. Then I go and say, I know this had a lien on it, but I went ahead and got a tax deed anyway. Now I'm going to ask the county to waive most of the things. Is that...
Well, that or if it was done before, there could be compliance between the person buying the tax certificates and...
But how I think the
But
good...
both ways. Either way that it happens, you know, who are we benefiting? The person that's buying those tax certificates knows the condition of the property, knows what they're doing. And if we're going to start setting up a system where we're going to forgive that, then why even go through all this business with code enforcement and all the rest of it? Why don't we just throw all of that out? Because what are these people doing that are volunteering their times and sitting on a
Let me tell you what I
code
think about
enforcement
that.
board?
Because at least now you are asked, and to me it's the thing that happens is the property gets cleaned up and it benefits the neighbors.
These agreements accomplish two main objectives. The first, these are all properties that we've been authorized to foreclose on. This is a legal attempt to avoid the expense and time of pursuing foreclosure, but trying to accomplish two things. One, bringing the property into compliance. We would only bring this to you if the property was in compliance now. And two, recovering the county's costs for hard costs and staff costs that you expended in order to prosecute or to clean up. None of these cases were cleanup.
So we're not net
cases.
losing any money. We are recovering
Exactly.
our costs at least now. The thing that we're not recovering is the punitive fines
That's right.
that may have been incurred by a previous owner. And Howard, let me give you an example on the next one.
Well, let me step in for a moment
Okay.
before you give me the next example and say that this that's coming forward here is a whole bunch better than the forgiveness of the entirety when we're not even getting back the work that the county has put into it.
I agree.
So, I mean,
This is much
that
better
is
than...
that is definitely better than what was there before.
Let's take the next. Now, I don't want to jump ahead, but let's take the next one for example. It has a code lien of $55,000. Who in the world is going to buy that and clean it up, knowing that there's a lien on it? If the goal of code enforcement is to clean up dangerous situations and make neighborhoods nicer, then this kind of encourages, the next one at least, which, I know this doesn't, are paying $4,800 in administrative fees. So they're at least paying back the citizens' investment in it. The property is cleaned up. The person that's buying it certainly having to go through a lot of grief, I would assume. It's not like they're just being handed that, but this is in lieu of taking the property from them. So
And just to add in that payment also, that $4,800 is, in this agreement, is being busted up over 24 payments. So they can pay a couple $100 a month over a period of 2 years, and you know, they're able to handle it, and we're able to get our hard costs back.
As long as we're not losing any money and the property gets cleaned up, I think that's the goal.
Good, Ralph, I'll go after you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if I'm missing something. Does this particular item include tax certificates and tax liens? I didn't see that in our agenda item at all.
That's just how they got the property, I think is what Howard's...
They-
Well, there's taxes due on this particular piece of property, my understanding, and there may be one old tax certificate, but not every year has had a tax certificate.
So this particular property was acquired by tax deed?
I don't know, but we're not addressing that at all.
No,
I think we're really confusing this issue terribly, and we're mixing in some variables that don't apply to this particular one. And even if a tax certificate is sold, the citizens are still receiving the money from the investor that's buying that certificate. So I just want to be clear that this action is not taking money away from the citizens.
No, it's not.
And I think this particular one is the lady that was here at the previous meeting.
And it has nothing
Right.
to do with forgiving property taxes either.
Right.
Right.
Right, and so if we go and look at that 55,000 or 58,000, whatever that number is, that ridiculous number, and we all admit it's a ridiculous number, but how did it get there? It got there because the person...
We're talking about different agenda items.
That's okay, that's okay. It got there because people ignored the actions of the Code Enforcement Board,
Couldn't agree more.
okay, and the Code Enforcement staff. And that is an issue we have to address and not encourage that type of mentality.
I think on the larger note, Howard, we did step up the foreclosure proceedings, right? These are older cases, I think. Now, we don't wait this long for these fines to build up this long. It goes to foreclosure. That gets their attention immediately.
How many liens do we have? These are 4 that are before us today. How many liens are out there, roughly?
Around about 30, but only 10.
Go to the mic, please.
She's not wearing Auburn colors, Jerry.
I'm Seminole all the way. I can't give you an approximate number right now. I can give it to you tomorrow, but there's approximately about 30 that are out there, but I believe there's 10 that we've moved forward with the demand letters.
We've sent more than that. We've sent more than 10 original, and then there was a second batch.
Okay.
Some
But
of them are homesteaded. We can't do much. You know, there's...
Howard's point is well taken, though. I think when we talked about this at a workshop we had, you remember with the code enforcement, we need to step up, not let it go this far, and at least we're getting our recovery costs for Jamie's salary, Ron Pisecki's time. I assume the code enforcement board, their time was included on this, and your time, so we're not losing anything. So. And the property got cleaned up.
I think that the Code Enforcement members not paid, but staff that's there is being paid.
Right.
But keep in mind, I mean, we sent out demand letters to try to come to agreement on every single one that we brought to you before we went to foreclosure. We brought them all. We have authorization to go to foreclosure. There's some that we may ultimately not file foreclosure proceedings on because you would expend legal costs and filing fees, and there's very little chance you'd ever recover that. So those are still going to be sitting out there. And I'll give you a report on the ones we ultimately make that determination on. It may be because there's a first mortgage that is so large that we can look at that until we'd never recover anything.
And if a bank gets it, I don't want to cut you off, but if a bank forecloses on that property, they're going to clean it up anyway to get rid of it.
Or if we file foreclosure and there's a first lien, they're going to wipe us out.
Right.
We don't have any priority with these.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie.
Well, we're going to rehash this again in the next agenda item, but they're going ahead, and if I have a motion and second for this one, we're going ahead and vote on this one and move to the next one. Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Okay.
The next one is the same agreement for a different property.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion made and seconded. We have any discussion on this item?
1 second.
We also have one citizen to speak on this one as well.
Is there a house on this property now?
No,
No,
sir.
this is vacant.
It's vacant land.
The taxes paid?
Yes.
And we couldn't do this on a homestead property. Let me reiterate that again. If this is someone's personal house,
If it's homesteaded, it's not, we cannot foreclose on a lien.
we could make an agreement to pay off
Yes,
code enforcement liens. We wouldn't have any teeth because we couldn't foreclose on it.
that's correct.
Okay.
But we could sue the person personally for the amount.
I'm going to go ahead and ask Mr. Kevin Hall to come up and speak, and then we'll discuss afterwards.
Thank you, Commissioners. Yes, my name is Kevin Hall, 82 Persimmon Road, Sopchoppy. Back in June, or actually on June 3rd, 2013, I came to you when this was on a item agenda. We would ask for your approval for this item number 17. The property has been cleaned up. There has been an agreement made, which is recommended by staff, and we would ask gracefully for your acceptance of this, and that we would be able to move forward. I've also spoken with Commissioner Moore, and I will be in contact with the County Administrator, David. And you know, there's a thing that the faith-based community could possibly help in many other cases like this, where individuals don't know where else to turn. Perhaps there's a pride issue that they don't want to ask for help. But the faith-based community could come behind and help in many of these situations, and before they even got to this paramount figure that unfortunately is a divisive issue with the commission, and be able to offer assistance, come alongside of our citizens and help them get to where they can live peacefully and within the community. Specifically on this item number 17, I ask for your approval, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, where's this property at?
This property is located off of Surf Road and then Family Circle. As you're going down Surf Road, it's the first.
That's where he lives.
That's where he lives. Is for Simmons.
Colleen's family?
No, it's right around the
Street.
corner from her.
Yeah, right around the
Is this the
corner.
one you were dealing with?
Yes,
Okay. I appreciate your efforts on that, by the way.
yes, sir. Well,
And
Commissioner
Commissioner
Thomas
too.
also.
Lot of folks, Pastor Hall and his family was there. A lot of folks helped us out with that.
I think
And even let me put in a plug for Waste Pro. They donated 3 rollbacks, and we filled those things up completely.
So, Richard, you got all excited for no reason. Here it is, coming to a resolution.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I had talked with Reverend Hall, or he had asked me today about the faith-based community helping out with this, and I put he and David together, and they didn't seem to have any problem with that being able to work. And I asked Mr. Hall to set up a committee of his own choosing and whatever, outside of the county board or whatever, but he agreed to do that, and maybe with working with David, they can help us with some of these things as we go forward.
I fully agree with it. One thing that was encouraging about this particular issue is there, over the period of about 3 weekends, there was close to 20 volunteers that come together. That the 20 volunteers, most of them, they didn't know the person they were helping. They didn't know one another, but they just showed up with, some of them showed up with their wheelbarrows and the trailers and didn't know anybody, but they just got out there and got it done. And I agree with Pastor Hall that there was a model that got set that going forward, if we know who some of these are, we may can help.
Also in the rain, I think, all 3 weekends.
Yes. All right, anyway, all in favor for the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. And Heather, you said you was pulling number 18? Okay, David, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I got a few updates to give you guys. First off is, as you all may or may not know, J.D. Johnson, our Veterans Affairs Director, he was in a serious car accident in Tampa. He's currently in a coma in a hospital in Tampa, so we're waiting to hear some more updates, but it doesn't look good. So you need to keep him in your thoughts and prayers. But for our veterans, we've reached out to Leon and Gaston County, and we believe that we're working on a deal with we'll be working on a deal with both of those counties to try to help us cover our veterans. Currently, any veterans that need assistance can come to the office and contact Jessica and or go to Tallahassee for that, and we'll hopefully have an agreement with both or just one of those counties. I'll go ahead, and once we reach agreement, I'll go ahead and sign that agreement and bring it back to you guys for ratification. That way you don't have to wait to the next board meeting to go forward.
Would you like the board to vote now to give you that authority, where you don't have to bring it back?
That would be awfully nice.
Is that acceptable to? Okay, I'll make that motion then to give him
Second.
authority.
Do we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Thank you.
Easier for you?
So anyway, yeah, that'll make it a lot easier, and we're going to try to get it to where we don't have a blip with our veterans, and we've had some already in, so anyway, it's a difficult situation, but we'll work through it. Secondly is our state and our 2014 state and federal issues. Florida Association of Counties, FACT, is planning a potential Florida federal legislative fly-in. And what this is about is really it boils down to the Biggert Waters Act, the FEMA Flood Act. They're wanting to get as many commissioners to fly up with them to help lobby the Senate as well as the Congress to try to do something about the Biggert Waters Act. As you know, that is a big problem for our county and our state and the new implementation of these FEMA flood maps. So therefore, if any of you guys are interested, please let us know. Please let Cherie know, and join in the fly-up or the fly-in, and we can help you with that process. But like I say, they're still planning it, but if anybody's interested, please let us know, because we sure would like to have some representation. The fly-in is February 11th. It'll be a one-day fly-in and then fly back out, from what our understanding is as of right now. The other one is legislative committee starts this week. Committees start meeting this week. Cherie will be monitoring all of those, so we'll give you guys updates as well as we'll be part of the. She'll be a part of the FACT weekly post committee conference update. Community Center. I sent each of you a. No, excuse me. I was thinking about the rec park. The Community Center. We're currently working with the Coalition of Youth, the Wakulla County Coalition of Youth, on a contract for the use of the community center for the Outreach Prevention as grant as a one-stop center. We'll be bringing that to you on the next meeting on the 21st. As soon as we'll be meeting with, we've had one draft. We'll be meeting with WCCY this week, and if we can hammer that out with them, I'll send it out to you guys as soon as I can, so that you have enough time to really look at, as much time as you can to look at the contract. But we'll have that, hopefully have that on the 21st, so that we can get this thing going. Also, the property for the recreation park that Commissioner Moore has been working on. We've got that contract negotiated. I have signed it, and realize all that means is that allows us to go through our 30-day notification. That 30-day notification will go out this week. I approved that today. Therefore, on the 17th, it'll come to the board on the 17th. Oh, excuse me, the meeting on the 18th. It'll come to you guys for approval at that point in time. The highway. I've sent you guys the purchase and sale agreement already. The way it'll work from there is, if the board approves it at that point in time, it moves forward with a 120-day due diligence period, $25,000 down. If we find something or back out during that 120 days, we're fully refunded our $25,000 down.
But how much is the land?
The land is, $498,000. That's $2,900 an acre.
This was an unbudgeted expense, but just seemed like a good deal. But we're not committing to buy it.
We're not committing to buy it. All this is this gives us a look. We're going to send this forward, and like I say, y'all have a chance to vote on the contract, whether to send it forward, as well as then we'll have a 120-day out after that.
We're going to be presented with a vote on it. Are you going to present us with a way to pay for it?
Yes, that'll all be part of it. I'll present that to you guys the 1st of February as well, so you'll have plenty of time to chew through that.
And that's
as well as the due diligence cost.
Too deep into this, but you're going to have to eliminate other planned things like a soccer complex or whatever.
We've got a lot of work
to do that. We're going to do this.
We've got a lot of work to do. I've got all the due diligence costs. Part of that due diligence cost is doing a master plan for this area, and out of that master plan will come the final plans. But yes, we'll have all of those. We'll answer all the questions.
Pretty major thing.
It's pretty major. But we're going to answer those questions.
Getting back to those questions that Commissioner Merritt was asking, when are these answers coming forward? Is it at the same time that we were supposed to be voting on this?
We're gonna. That's what I was saying earlier. In the meeting beforehand, I'll have all the cost that it's going to take to do the due diligence, the process that we're going to go through, and some operational data to back up kind of where we're going forward. Then then if you guys, once I give you that information, then once you say, if you say move forward, then during that 120-day, we'll be refining that because we'll actually have a master plan and we'll be able to refine our cost and operational costs, et cetera, based upon that plan moving forward.
And I want to know why, I'm sorry, if you think this is a good deal, why is it a good deal? Why is this better than...
I haven't said that.
Okay, I said if. If you think that, what I'd like the person to see is why. Here's what we're going to do with it. We can use it for this use, that use.
We will have all that.
Instead of doing this, we'll do that. It's a better deal for the citizens, blah, blah, blah.
It's much needed. We're in dire needs. We're already running currently. We don't have enough soccer field for our kids as well right now, as well as we don't have a complex that is up to par enough to have soccer tournaments and baseball tournaments, et cetera. And we've grown out of Medark Park, and we're going to need to do something. And we'll have all that data to you guys. We've already got some of it.
You haven't taken a position on this item yet.
Well, it's something that is needed. Whether we can afford it at this point in time, we've got to wait and see. But we need it here in this county. We need to improve our recreational facilities because they're subpar at best. And we've got to do something. And the problem is we've run out of land where we're at, and we don't have enough fields to cover. We've got more kids and more kids coming in for soccer, and every season we increase our soccer count.
But you had budgeted for a soccer complex.
We had budgeted $500,000 for a soccer complex, yes. And that'll be part of the funds to be able to utilize to pay for this.
Okay, so I'm still not clear on the time frame here. When this information comes to the board, if the board, you're saying then the board will decide at that meeting whether they want to go ahead? No.
No, the next meeting. I'll be sending you more information. Like I sent you information last week.
Right.
Okay, I sent y'all a map and the contract. Over the next couple of weeks, and by the end of that, by the first of the meeting in 1st of February, I'll have sent you all the due diligence information, all the costs it's going to take for the due diligence, financing, all of those things. I'll have sent that to you guys. So that gives you 2 weeks to basically go there. As soon as I get all this information, which I've got the majority of it now, I've just got to pull it all together, I'll be sending it to you as I get it, but I've set a deadline of 1st of February to have it all to you.
I'd say we need a minimum of 2 weeks. You know.
We need all of 2 weeks.
Okay. Like I say, I've got a lot of it.
Right.
I just got to pull it together.
But also would like, along with the questions that Commissioner Merritt had asked, that we have the time frame spelled out when this rec park would be expected to be functional and what it would cost to get it functional and what it would cost to maintain it.
One thing that hadn't been, David, you were talking about soccer. This is an all-inclusive rec park. It involves football, softball, little league, big league, anything to do with recreation. This will provide the space and the facility to take us forward 50 years, 75 years. It will make our county have a rec program that benefits the people who are most important in our county, and that's the young people.
And yes, Dr. Kessler, we will have background information. We'll have our anticipated operational costs. We'll have all of that information. But if we move forward, like I said, within the 120-day due diligence period, as we get the master plan, we'll get a master plan built. We'll refine those costs during that, but we will have an initial, here's what we're looking
Now,
at.
at this point, though, it's just looking at buying a piece of land because we can get it at a good deal.
That's
We're
right,
not talking
that's
about
right.
opening a soccer complex next week.
We won't be able to do that, but what I'll do is we'll have to look at, see what we got on our 1-cent sales tax, how we're paying for this, what dollars will be available, grants available. We're going to look at all of that
Let's
stuff.
not forget that the 1-cent sales tax is up for a vote again in a couple of years.
And, you know, that enters into the equation. There's a lot of things that enter into the equation, but at the end of the day, tracks like this don't come available every day. So,
Okay. So basically, we may be able to get a good deal on a piece of land that's too
It may.
large what we need right now, but it may be good
That's
a
right.
long ways in the
Very well maybe. That's right.
But we still need to look at it.
That's
I
right.
basically don't want to confuse the issue of building out the system. The issue in this projection is just buying the land.
Mhm.
So I don't want to throw a whole bunch of money in debt and whatever forget the word debt, but I don't want to throw the confusion into this of building a whatever when the only thing we're talking about here is can we afford the land and not have to...
There'll be steps to that, that's right, but we need also to understand what our end goal is.
Justified by it.
Justified. So we'll get there. As part of this...
There's also, to interrupt one more time, and I'd like to also understand a market analysis of why this is such a good deal.
Okay.
I assume you have comps on it and all that.
We're going to gather all that stuff. That's
Probably
right.
appraisal.
That would come during the...
That would come during the due diligence. Also, as part of this, we've also engaged conversation with, as well as with the National Forest Service, and there's a couple of out tracts of land that they have currently, that's in the Crawfordville area, that in conjunction with this property and running during while we're doing this, we'll be having meetings with the National Park Service to see if we can do a land swap for some of our acreage that we've got, such as at Purify Bay potentially, as well as maybe where the horse complex is, to possibly do a trade of 100 acres or 200 acres up in the Crawfordville area that's closer to town, so therefore we wouldn't have to buy this, but dealing with the National Forest and the federal government.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that, but at least we're going to give that a try because there's a couple of tracts that fit that bill up there. We've already identified those to the federal government, and so we're working that to see if we can get something for just a trade out.
We tried to swap them that entire parcel where the horse complex is for like 20 acres for a spray field. They literally told us it would take an act of Congress.
Well, and that very well may be, but at least we can do is we need to pursue that, and if we can possibly get that, that's good, because we do need to move out of our Med-Art Park because we've expanded its capacity. The next thing is landfill closure. We'll be presenting you guys hopefully the 1st of February if Katie gets it out and Cleve gives her all the information. Look, Cleve looks like he's the only guy from Auburn that's got a sweater vest. So.
He's the only guy from the United States that's got a sweater vest.
He got that off of an Auburn girls lacrosse team member. So
they had a rush on the
That's
Goodwill
right.
this afternoon.
But anyway, we'll be moving forward. The anticipated project cost for that is $1.5 million. We currently have $500,000 in reserve. We'll be using that. We'll have to borrow the other $1 million potentially. But those bids will be going out the 1st of February. We'll be bringing those back to you. Should be towards the end of it'll be in March before those comes back to you. They'll come back to you. Restore Act, just a brief update on Restore Act. The U.S. Treasury has contacted all 23 counties to advise them they're scheduling a conference call for key personnel in the county, such as myself and the Chief Financial Officer Greg and Restore Act coordinators to discuss how we're going to handle, how the funds will be handled within our counties, as well as what they're anticipating. So that doesn't mean any money is here. That just means the Treasury is getting ready. So that's all we know. So that's it on the Restore Act. Also on the Restore Act, we'll also be turning into the Gulf Consortium. We'll be turning into those folks a list of our priorities that we'll have that we need to look at, which they're the same as what we've always said, which is our countywide sewer system and upgrade, rehabilitation, improvement and enhancement of the commercial fishing opportunities, that's oysters, fishing, etc., and then rehabilitation and improvement of our county facilities and access to the Gulf, which such as our parks and our some of our fishing and boat launches, etc., as well as all the others that are in our infrastructure plan. So that'll be going to the Gulf Consortium. You guys have already passed that. Ralph, do you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's
Okay.
it. Thank you.
Next, as Commissioner Merritt said, we'll be bringing to you guys the purchasing policy redo. We're updating it, upgrading it to fit modern day era. The last time it was done was a long time ago. We've got to update. A lot of federal law and state law has changed since then, as well as we have some other updates we'd like to do to it. OBBT Phase 3 construction, we're ramped that back up again now. We'll go, Cherie is in the process of getting all that together. We'll be bidding out that project here hopefully pretty soon, probably in April, late April, early May. It'll be going out for bid. So as well as the state has funded 5B, 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 and Phase 2 and 5B, 5A funding is already in place. So there's good potential by the end of fiscal year 15, we could have the entire OBBT trail completed.
Back to on your purchasing policy, speaking as a former chairman, I don't know if there's a way you can make it where the chairman doesn't have to sign every single piece of paper on a...
We're looking at limits right
especially
now.
when the board's already
We're
approved
looking
it.
at limits right now. Our limits right now are very low. No one in the country has as low limits as we do. So we're looking at increasing those limits. We don't even have that within... Our limits are lower than our existing constitutional officers.
I mean, if the
other
board has
constitutional
approved the
officers.
purchase, I would think that gives the administrator authority to sign.
It will, as well as the biggest thing is sending actually having to do an ITB for everything over $10,000. That costs the county a bunch of money to do those things, and that threshold, that was good back then, but that threshold now needs to be moved up where to do an ITB versus.
And I want to give more
just an
flexibility
informal.
to operate, I guess, more like a private business where you can go out under a certain threshold and get prices and try to get the best deal on it and not have to be stuck with a bid where you get the lowest.
As of right now, like I say, it costs the county quite a bit of money of personnel time and attorney fees to do an ITB for just a small amount of job as $10,000.
I had to go in and sign a paper to buy fuel for Cleve's trucks, and that,
Yeah.
shouldn't have to do that.
Anyway, that's it, other than we met this Commissioner Merritt. As one good thing is I can tell you is since Commissioner Merritt's been on the CRTPA, we have definitely getting some money starting to flow into Wakulla County. Like I said, we've got OBBT phases 5B and 2 funding is taken care of, Smith Creek Bridge placement, and then also he's going to bring up the right-of-way purchase on the 319 as well. So that is my update. Any other questions?
I have two citizens to be heard before we move into commissioner discussions. First citizen, Dana Peck.
Dana Peck, 2481 Surf Road. Sometimes I think I have to slap myself to think I'm really hearing what I'm hearing, but two of you put taxes on everything in this county you could put taxes or fees on. All utilities, internet, cable, phone, gas, electricity, and you did that, you said, to get this county out of debt. Two of you, Mr. Hart and Mr. Thomas, were elected, and you seemed to approve of those taxes because you did nothing to remove them, and you approved a budget that included them for revenue. You are given the green light to put on the ballot for people of Panacea to pay an extra $132 a year on their electricity now, just so a handful of people can get their hands on grant money that will probably not go anywhere but in their pockets. You have swimming not allowed on the beaches because fecal coliform in the water. You have muddy roads. You have sewer and septic problems that are enormous, and you are sitting here talking about land in this county where there's lots of land for sale for a soccer field that won't be a soccer field anytime soon, that would put this county into debt $500,000 for starters. And I sit and I wonder, what is your vision for this county? Could you just take a picture of a family in this county and put it beside your bed and look at it at night and say to that picture, now what am I going to do for you tomorrow? Because right now you are doing nothing but doing to these people, not for these people, to these people. What are your priorities? What are your goals? What is your vision? And it certainly is to not do good for this county. And by the way, just because you've had words in the contract with ESG to protect this environment over and over and for years doesn't make it any less egregious to have those words there and at the same time abolish all the protections on the wetlands that are the source of tourism, industry, and progress in this county. This commission needs to have a jiggle set on its brain and get together and examine what you're doing. Thank you.
Okay, our next citizen to be heard is John Trice.
that $10,000 y'all talking about signing for, he's talking about upping it, don't need to be up. Y'all got around for years where that $10,000 wasn't enforced. It was smaller than that. So if you up that $10,000, not saying that he will, he can go out and write a check or buy something for a whole lot more and decide to take off with it, and the county's stuck. So we don't need to give Mr. Edwards an open checkbook. They can come through y'all and get more money. For years, it wasn't near that much. Randy and them got it raised to $10,000 a few years ago. I was here and listened to it when it was raised to $10,000. Mr. Barwick didn't have that much borrowing power for a long time when he was head of it. So $10,000 is enough. The county is not gone that much that they can't come in here and get a $10,000 raised or check. Like Randy said, he had to come get more money for him to buy his fuel. So what? It didn't hurt Randy to do it. He's a county commissioner. He gets paid to take care of things like that. There was a time a county commissioner took care of all the business in his part of the county. Y'all didn't have a man like Mr. Edwards to do things or his job for him. And we didn't pay a man like him. Used to, the county commissioner done his work. And each one of them done everything for him. So let it be that way. We don't need, Ben's, you're getting the counties built back up again. We don't need somebody to come in here and scheme us out of all the county taxpayers' money. So just keep it at $10,000. That's fine. And so everybody's doing good. And Cleve and Jerry Moore, y'all's wives need to dress y'all better in the morning before they let y'all out of the house. Thank you.
All right.
Well said, John.
All right, that's all our citizens to be heard. Randy, we'll start down there, and if you got any discussion.
Yeah, I got a couple of items. What Chris Russell brought up earlier, Heather, I don't know if you're directed at you, but as far as the citizens initiative, let's say that these quarterly reports aren't being turned in. Does that expose, does that endanger that initiative in some way, or we don't know because it's never been done?
I don't know any of the facts aside from what I heard today, so I couldn't possibly.
Well, let's assume that there have been no quarterly reports filed.
I'd have to look and see. I don't even
it's never
know
been.
that they're required by the charter.
We're on new ground.
Yeah.
And then and back on that, and I'm not trying to sit here and challenge it right in front of everybody, but was the language of the petition? I know the charter spells out specifically how that's vetted. Is that approved by like the supervisor
Supervisor
elections?
election.
Thank you.
That's his.
So Buddy approved the language. Okay. The next thing, David was saying.
Wait, can I jump in
Sure,
on that
sure,
topic
sure.
since you're there? So, so the citizen that spoke to that issue and raised those points, my understanding of it, and I would encourage that citizen to go back and to read the charter again, and to also speak with our supervisor of elections. Those are to be handed in at one time, the ballots, the petitions rather, when there is a sufficient number. Okay, well, that's what that's about.
That's why
okay?
Chris had just said those things, and I was just
right. So trying to keep well, these have been brought up and brought up and brought up, and they've been put to rest, put to rest, put to rest.
Again, I don't think that's going to sway anybody's mind one way or the other about it.
Right.
There were more technical questions than anything else.
Right. So approved by the supervisor of elections. The wording has been approved. It is satisfactory as far as the supervisor of election is concerned, and I assume the state. And
the state was a good question, Howard. I don't.
Well, I mean,
I don't
whoever.
think the charter says it has to be approved by the state.
I don't think it does either.
Okay. And most people don't understand the difference between between a charter amendment and a ordinance. This is an ordinance. This is not a charter amendment. So I don't know if there's different rules that apply.
That's correct. That's correct. And that's, and without the charter, this petition drive could not be taking place.
Correct.
Okay. And as to, it is a one-issue item, and there is no misstep with regards to the handing in of the petitions.
And I personally think go ahead. I personally think it's kind of doing its job because could go, the political winds could change, and this board could sweep to the other side, and then citizens that had different opinions from that board would also have that at their disposal to do a petition drive.
Sure.
So I think it does serve as kind of a balancing act that, you know, we're here, but, you know, that encouraged me to try to compromise on it. That didn't get anywhere, but it, you know, it gave me another position, another, you know, if you don't do this, the citizens can do that. So I think
Right.
it's serving its purpose. But it could go both ways, of course.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the bottom line is it gives more participation of the citizens in their government.
If by no other means, by swaying, I shouldn't say threat, but you know what I'm saying. It gives another option.
Yes.
All right. On the right-of-way...
Can I jump in on that? I mean, I've got a copy of
I
the...
didn't want to... Don't forget about
Yeah, I know. I've got a copy of the charter here, and I haven't fully explored it either, but it says the sponsor shall comply with all requirements of general law for political committees and shall file quarterly reports with the supervisor of elections stating, to the best of the sponsor's information and belief, the number of signatures procured. So, Heather, if you'll follow up with us and give us your legal opinion on that, but I mean, I think that...
I'm not personally asking for a legal opinion at all.
I think
I'll let Buddy deal with that.
And I'm talking about when the petitions get handed in.
Okay.
Well, right there, it says quarterly report.
No, the petitions don't get handed in quarterly.
Quarterly estimate.
I'm gonna, Mr. Russell, when he brought those positions forward, I'm gonna ask Heather if she will investigate each of those 3 positions and give us a legal opinion on the 3.
I can tell you my opinion on, the quarterly reports, that is truly a supervisor of elections issue, but I mean, I can certainly talk to him about
But
that. This is not a
can-
zoning issue. Zoning is going from residential to
A zoning,
commercial or
right.
vice versa. This is not doing that. And I do believe there's a single subject. If, I've not seen the ballot, but my understanding is they're taking the existing ordinance that we already have and having that adopted by referendum as an ordinance.
I think we should let Buddy handle this personally.
Well, this is the charter that was adopted by this board. This charter is what gives the authority to do this petition method, and so this charter outlines the steps that have to be followed.
I agree
And so
with
I
you.
think that we need to at least have an answer of whether or not that's being done. And like Chris pointed out, this is an excellent thing for this charter review committee to look at and figure out if that's good, bad, needs to be changed, whatever.
I totally agree with you.
My 2 cents, I just gave it to you, but, I mean, before we spend a lot of time and researching issues, I'd like to see that there's a sufficient number of signatures and it's actually a valid initiative, so...
Well, but
I
see,
mean,
the purpose of this wording is to give you that status on a quarterly basis. You shouldn't have to wait until the end. That's in the charter that was adopted.
Is that for a charter amendment or for an ordinance, or is there a difference?
That is under the section that's titled Procedure for Petition.
And then I would ask the fact that Buddy could either be right or wrong as for his interpretation of the direction that the board gave.
That can only be challenged by a legal
And
challenge, I would think.
And I understand it. I'm just saying, I don't think this issue is particularly ripe right now because we have an initiative going on. We don't have an initiative that's been approved to go forward. Once they turn in or don't turn in a sufficient number of ballots, it seems like then that is the time to sort of vet these things.
Because we'll have several
That-
months to look at to vet those issues, I guess. And that's why those timelines were put into place that, okay, now you got all your petitions in, now we're going to take it seriously for
I mean,
lack of any other
if
better
there's not a sufficient number of signatures, petitions turned in, then we've wasted an incredible amount of time looking at these issues.
With all
But
due
that's-
respect,
you're-
though, if it says that they should be turned in at a particular time, then they need to be turned in at a particular time.
This is our charter. This is our constitution for Wakulla
Okay,
County.
again-
I don't think we put that on the supervisor of elections' shoulders. I think this comes back to us. This is our charter.
Okay. The supervisor of elections, and I would encourage you to speak to him as far as when these petitions are turned into him, will be turned in one fell swoop, as per his direction. Okay? He is the supervisor of elections. That is who we deal with. We are a political entity in that the WWA is a political entity. As far as if you're questioning whether there are sufficient petitions gathered, the WWA has constantly been ahead of the curve in where it is time-wise and how many petitions it is.
I don't think that's the issue at
gathered.
hand.
No, I don't think it is either, but there's been questioning, well, you know, are there petitions out there? And there are plenty of petitions out there. The
that's not the
overwhelming majority of the citizens of this county want this on the ballot, and they look forward to signing it. So if the issue of this board is to try to find legal means to overthrow this thing, then go for it. But
That's not my intent. I just want to know, the sponsor shall. Is the sponsor complying with the very ordinance that's given them the authority to move forward with this? We can't cherry pick and say we like these parts and we don't like these parts. Are we complying with the entire? That's all I'm saying. Allow it to move forward, but all I'm saying is, have we complied with the ordinance?
we will, WWA will look at that again, and we
When
will
I said
confer.
I would talk to the supervisor.
And we will
They-
talk with
I
the
don't know.
supervisor of elections also.
All right, we done with that one? Good, thank you. All right.
I'm surprised.
Well, you know, something need to be aired out. On the CRTPA, we met with Harry Reid today and went over the draft work program, and we've been allocated $13.1 million for right-of-way acquisition from East Ivan to Leon County. That's fiscal year 17, 18, and 19. It's not tomorrow, but at least we're on the list and have money allocated for right-of-way.
And that's great, and I want to piggyback on to what the county administrator said of your work on the CRTPA. It's been excellent. One correction, and you can come over and pat my back whenever you want to do that, but the first big chunk of money that came through for the bike trail was during the time that I was working on that CRTPA and was vice chair, whatever that position is called. So, I mean, we have been
I think I
working,
publicly gave you credit for that, too.
and you did.
Yes.
And we have been, you know, when we've had representation on there, you know, there's been a lot of discussion of, well, you've got 5% of the vote, how much can that mean? But it means a lot when you're on that board and your colleagues take you seriously and you can push your agenda.
It's
You can
not
see-
necessarily the amount of votes you have, but making contacts with fellow
Making
communities.
contacts and making sense, and there it is.
And we also have $670,000 program in 2016 for the intersection in McDonald's to improve it, and I assume that's the 4-lane, which will be a big help. We also have, starting in 2015, we have $98,000 allocated to build a sidewalk from the senior center to 319, which has been desperately needed for a long time. Now, there are other projects, like David said, replacing the bridge on 319 and some other
When are we getting to the sidewalks on Panacea?
We're addressing that through the community traffic safety team. It's not been programmed money-wise.
But, David, do you know when we can,
That's exactly what we're addressing that through another pot of money.
Yes.
will that be this year?
No.
Pardon?
What do you say, Randy?
I don't think no government moves that fast.
You're going to get somebody, one of the little old ladies in the wheelchair is going to be run over.
That's what we brought up to Tommy Barfield about that, and that's the reason we're approaching it from a safety standpoint.
If the community traffic safety team can get that money, then yes, maybe it would happen. And they used to give away a lot of money for stuff like that. The intersection at Max Meats, this one right here by the cemetery, and Spring Hill Road were all done with that money, but that money just disappeared. So.
But that is a priority, and DOT is well aware of that.
Yes. That was the number one priority, though, was that one, from
That's
the
right.
senior citizens to 319. That's it for me.
Okay.
Basically, one of the citizens brought up about priorities and so forth. I can tell you what my priority is and has been and will continue to be, and it will be the children of Wakulla County. It will be keeping them busy, keeping them occupied, keeping them out of trouble, keeping them in sports, and anything to do with that. If you can keep your kids in sports and keep them occupied, you will keep them out of trouble. And I will do anything that I can, whenever I can, to promote that priority. The other part of my priority is to take care of the seniors. And doing that, the senior center is a great service to our community in serving the seniors. They distribute 800 meals a week. The drivers of those automobiles, and I want to recognize them here one night, the drivers of those automobiles for the senior center, it's their own automobiles, it's their own gas, and it's their own time. and they make that effort every week. And daily, the senior center serves about 100 people on a daily basis. So I have two priorities, and I will not compromise those priorities, and it's children and recreation and keeping them out of trouble and giving them something to do, and the seniors.
I guess for me, the thing that's on my mind, it's like Pastor Hall said earlier, whenever, as far as cleaning up properties and helping out with code enforcement. I think there is a avenue there that faith-based community could come together and help address a lot of these. So I thank you again, Pastor Hall, for coming.
I've got just one thing. 2012, the board adopted a ordinance that regulated mobile food vendors. And I'd just like to bring it up, a couple minor suggestions, minor changes, and see if there's interest. If there's interest, I'd like to bring it back. And, you know, one thing, it says that the hours of operation shall be between sunrise and sunset. Tonight, sunset's 5:52, so they've got to shut down. And, you know, I just don't see any real reason for that. If we have someone who wants to set up after a ball game and it's after sunset, can't do it the way I read this. And so I think that would be something that would be worthy of changing. The vehicle or parking trailer shall not be operated on an undeveloped parcel. You know, if it's a clear parcel, if it's not causing any other problems, if they've got permission from the parcel owner, I'm not sure why that would be a problem.
I think, Ralph, I don't want to interrupt you, but that undeveloped, of course, you know, I wouldn't say spearheaded that thing, but I got in the middle of that. And I think as long as they had a driveway that was considered developed, or anything, you know, it doesn't mean it has to have a structure on it, but obviously, if you're on 318, you got to have a driveway to get onto it. That qualifies as developed.
And that's reasonable, if that's the case.
That's what that meant.
And then also, I have a problem with the 12-hour restriction. We will allow them to be there every day of the year. We will allow them to operate 12 hours a day every day of the year, but we're requiring them to go to the trouble of moving it. To me, it's an unnecessary inconvenience that achieves no benefit other than let's make it difficult for them, and maybe we can discourage them from doing it. And I think if they've got permission from the property owner, I'd like to see us maybe consider relaxing that restriction. And I'm not saying throw the whole ordinance out, just maybe those three things, or if there's any others that you guys think are worth discussing, but so we can make it more reasonable, allow people to use their property.
Everybody that's here now, of course, has been grandfathered in.
Sure.
And I had this accused of me about this ordinance. Before this ordinance, none of them were in compliance.
Right.
I brought this whole issue up to find a way forward to bring bring people like Hutton specifically into compliance, and the place that Lovell has up there. So.
And I think he moved out as a result of it, but I think it would be good, just some tweaks, just some adjustments, and let's.
In on the discussions on it, by the way.
Yeah. So if you guys are in agreement, I'll bring that back as an agenda item.
Well, I'd like to maybe have a workshop rather than an agenda item, because I think we need to know why some of those rules were put in place, what the value or non-value of those rules are. You know, are they important? Are they not important? I think we have to understand that before we move forward for an agenda item.
I would agree with you on that.
Well, then I'd make a motion that we have a workshop on this if all of you are in agreement
You want
with
to
it.
let Ralph bring back an agenda item, or do you want to proceed now with motion on a workshop?
I think a workshop would be good as well, because there may be other things that I haven't identified, and you know, I think
It has to be a 5-0 vote, you know, if we do it at
Just
that point.
do that have your workshop before a board meeting, so we don't.
I'm in favor of the workshop. I mean, you.
Howard, what day do you want to have it on?
Oh, I'll leave that up to Ralph.
Whatever's convenient.
February 6th is the next available date. Is that too soon?
That's a
February
date for
6th.
the workshop, though. What if they want to meet before the BoCC meeting? That would be February 3rd.
Okay, but our workshop days are also.
Jerry meant the day of the meeting, but a time before 6 o'clock.
Well, that's what I mean. Time before 6 o'clock, the day of the meeting.
The day of the meeting. Okay.
What Jessica's saying is our next designated workshop date.
No.
Y'all approve this calendar. You need to.
Okay. I'd like to know from staff, planning and zoning, if they have sufficient time to, they really are the driving the train on this, because they really have to come forward with a lot of information.
Oh, yes, we do. It's still fresh in our minds. It was recently adopted.
Was
and I think-
hashed over ad nauseum.
Yeah, I think we can remember why we
Yeah,
adopted a lot of these things.
This was beat to oblivion, so.
So February 3rd would be enough time for y'all?
All right, so we have a motion and we have a second
5 o'clock?
for a workshop. For what time?
5's fine. 5 on the 6th?
5 o'clock, February...
Third.
On the 3rd.
February 3rd.
February 3rd, 5 o'clock, February 3rd. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes.
That's all I have.
Okay, Howard?
Great. We'll be out of here by 8. First, there was a handout that you all got, Floridian's Clean Water Declaration. I plan on bringing this to the board at the next meeting as an agenda item. It's really just something that's getting started, but I think it's long overdue. We all know that in Florida, this issue of water quality and quantity, especially, is getting more and more demanding.
Are you going to bring us as a resolution?
Well, I can bring it as a resolution. I think that would be the easiest format for us to work with. So I'll put the letter in the form of a resolution.
Are we obligated to anything by...
No. It's just
No.
like general statements to me.
It's really just...
Resolution doesn't mean anything anyway, to be
Yeah,
honest
and
with you.
it really, it's just basically showing your support and showing that you are concerned on this.
Something you can send to somebody else and say, see, our board
Yeah.
agrees with these concepts.
Yep, and that's exactly right.
How many teeth, though?
So that's coming. Thank you.
Richard, I got one more.
Okay, all right, when he gets done,
The issue of the state rules for when we can trash our various documents and things, and that sort of got sparked in my mind when we went over this inventory thing and how much junk we had laying around that we didn't even know we had. And that's really good that this was done the first time, that we got that thing under control. So that's really great. But I'm concerned, especially when it comes to board meetings and workshops, and we have DVDs or CDs, and the state may say, well, we have to hold on to them for 5 years. Storing a whole bunch of DVDs doesn't take a whole bunch of space, at least in my mind. And I like to... It does? It does. Well...
Not good, Howard.
Yeah, I know. I'm already running into opposition here.
Don't get on Evelyn's bad side.
For the board meetings. See, and we've lost a lot of meetings in the past now, and a lot of stuff has been eliminated, but I'm just really concerned because I know before Evelyn started taking minutes, if there ever was a time.
Trying to make up, Evelyn. Okay.
Yeah. But sometimes it's difficult to ferret out what exactly took place on some of those minutes when you go back there. And boy, it's a whole lot easier when you have that audio or thing. So I don't know what the solution is. I discussed about, apparently it's really expensive putting this stuff on, scanning it and getting into things and putting it into clouds and all that kind of...
Cloud.
Cloud
Sounds like
the problem is it's very expensive because it chews up a lot of space.
Are they on YouTube? I assume most of them
Well,
are on YouTube.
one of the things that Miss Evelyn, they get rid of theirs in 3 years. We keep 5 years, excuse me.
We have our own retention
And
policy.
we have our own retention, and currently we've got 2007 CDs and 2000.
Probably a little sooner. Whenever Comcast started video in the meetings, we've kept every one. We
Yeah.
have them.
Right.
So
I guess there's an
we're keeping
informal way
those.
and a formal way to keep things, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Right, and we're going to plan to keep those going forward. Now, going back, we can't, whatever's been destroyed has been destroyed.
That would be a great step forward then if we can assure that those things are going to be kept from now on and not pitched. And if there was a time when space became an issue, I think we may want to look at some non-for-profit organization that could possibly house this for us and take that burden off of our hands, but still it's there for the community to have.
We have a storage unit.
We have a storage unit. And for the meetings, that's fine. It's just we're looking at digitizing, having to digitize all of our planning and zoning and building and all those records, and we're looking at cloud space, and it's very expensive, and so therefore that's the reason we went ahead and rented something. But ultimately, we're gonna be working towards digitizing everything so that we can get it on the cloud. That's where everybody's heading, and that's where we're gonna need to head. So
Another example is when I first
That's
got
years down the
elected,
road.
they were in Commissioner Green, George Green's office, and they saved every piece of paper he wrote on. You know, even if I sit here and doodle on this at a board meeting, they save it as an official record somewhere, right? And they got to keep that stuff. I throw mine away because I don't want them wasting the time, but they would keep this if they wanted and put it in the archives if somebody wanted to come back. I don't know if I just stuck my foot in my
You
mouth.
just did.
I'll get rid of mine.
Personal notes are not.
yeah.
I just don't want to waste any space saving this stuff, you know, that doesn't mean, now board minutes, that's a different story, of course.
Well, the minutes are always kept. I think we're talking about recording.
Right.
But we could informally keep them on our own. Evelyn wouldn't be required to keep them, but I think
Right.
direction to David to not throw away CDs from past board meetings, I think would...
Right.
everybody
And
would agree
we're
on
doing that already. So.
Okay, great. And maybe with the clerk of the court, if you're going to know that you're going to get rid of those for the year, that maybe I'd be happy to take them.
I don't think they have to be gotten rid of by
They're hazardous
certain way.
materials.
Well,
Destroy
right,
it.
you have to destroy it. You can't hand it over.
Make you a copy
Howard
of
could
all
walk
of
in the day before destruction and do a public records request, though, right? Or a week before, and then he'd have a copy.
That is so wild. Okay, all right.
We could change it.
Well,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe.
Local rule.
Okay, citizens to be heard. Mr. Chairman, as we go forward, you know, if we have instances again in the future where there's 30 citizens wanting to speak, and we've had sort of a policy over the past year of like knocking a minute off that time or whatever, but, you know, 30 citizens times one is a half hour, and I think that we as a board can tolerate an extra half hour of citizen debate. So I would urge you to be on the conservative side and not to eliminate that time.
I'll agree with Howard on that.
And that's all I have, and I wish everyone a Happy New Year.
All right, and I think Randy had
Yeah,
one more thing.
I was talking to Jerry outside the meeting, and I asked him if he had made any bets on the football game yet, and he said he couldn't find anybody taking any points, so that doesn't sound very good for y'all, so. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
Motion made, second.
All right, sleep it away.
Yes, sir.
Concerning this,
Thank you.
Mr. John.